Brand to Scale, where we explore the unexpected journeys behind inspiring leaders and what it takes to build something meaningful. I'm Jess, and today I'm joined by someone who's navigated a winding path from customer service to CEO, shaped by personal nudges, values, and a passion for people and performance. Matt Webb, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me on your podcast. It's an honour.
Thank you so much. Give us a quick intro into who you are and what you do, and then I'll go into some deep and meaningful questions and see how we get on.
All right. Yeah, I look forward to that. Yeah. So as you said, Matt Webb, CEO of Mentor, been with Mentor 18 and a half years in a number of different roles, which we'll come to, I'm sure. Father of three. My kids are all grown up, 21, 23, 25. I've married 27 years. So also a long time, and live in West Oxfordshire in the countryside. So that's me. And really, I've been a career salesperson. So, again, we'll go into that in a moment. And I didn't get there by design. I got there by accident. And I'm sure we can explore that a little bit as well.
100%. Yeah, that's a familiar story, that is. I didn't want to be this when I grew up, but suddenly I am now. Yeah. So on that vein then, let's go way back. What was life like growing up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I've lived in this area my whole life. So I'm in West Oxfordshire near a big RAF base called Bryce Norton. I actually live in Bryce Norton Village now with my family, and we've been in this house for 25 years. So I've been lucky. I think lucky is the right word, that I've had quite a stable base as I've been growing up in the same area, mostly stayed at the same schools. So yeah, early formative years were good. There were nudges along the way as I got into my teenage years that I think started to shape me. I also got involved in things like the Air Training Corps, ATC as it is, which might sound a bit nerdy. It's not. It was the RAF version of the cadet force. Wow. But I'm telling you that because that really shapes a number of the behaviours that I've got as an adult through my teenage years, and had some great experiences as well.
Wow. Tell me more about that then. What did that teach you, that experience?
So discipline. Those who know me will know I'm a little bit of a stickler for timekeeping. So it taught me the importance of working with teams, a little bit on leadership as I moved up through the ranks as it was at the time. Some great experiences walking the hills of the Lake District on Outward Bound. So, planning, organising, but also, the big thing was all about, and you mentioned it in the intro, the importance of people and camaraderie and having each other's backs and looking out for people. I think some of those values that came through that period have just stayed with me my whole life.
That's brilliant. When we chatted before, you mentioned a bit of a personal shift around the age of 12. Are you happy to talk a bit about that and how that shaped you?
Yeah, of course. My parents split up when I was at the age of 12. So those who've gone through a broken family know that it can be incredibly difficult. It can be character building in a number of different ways. For me, it gave me a lot more self-drive, a lot more autonomy. It gave me, the sad side of the story is less of a family unit to operate within, which meant I didn't have that backdrop of being able to rely on people, apart from my older brother, who's still, a good friend of mine today. But I had to be more self-driven. I had to make sure that I was looking at my own destiny more. And it sounds a bit weird to say that as I'm telling you this, because you think, really? At 12 years old? But it's just the reality of the way things were. I had to be disciplined, to drive things through myself. It was only a couple of years after that I joined the ATC. So that gave me focus. It gave me somewhere to go. It gave me something to do, a community of people to be a part of. So it was one of those nudges, Jess, where if I look back on it and I think, did that actually give me any mental toughness that I still have to this day? And it probably did, more because it had to than because I wanted it to.
Was that a decision you made at that early age to go and do that, or were you sort of pushed or encouraged into it?
No. It was myself and my best mate at the time who both said, we should go and do this. It was nobody pushed me into doing it. At that age, I was a keen footballer. It wasn't until my late teens, so I also had that team essence of that as well, which was a family thing. So as a family, my dad, my brother, my grand, we all played football. So that was something that I'd always been a part of. But no, the ATC was more, it was something that I wanted to do to give myself something to do.
Mm.
The actual byproduct of everything I've just described is not really known at the time because I'd heard about it, but I didn't really understand it too much.
What I mean, you could have gone in a few different directions, right, with that experience, and lots of young men at that age could have probably gone off the rails or gone to do something else or gone straight into work. You must have had a an ambition inside you at that age, or a need to go and be part of more communities. So, do you think that was just ingrained in you, or something you were learning and wanted to chase?
Funnily enough, I was actually quite keen at that age to be a an airline pilot. So you go into a school and you say, well, what do you want to be? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a pilot. I want to be a lawyer, whatever it is. I was no different. I was like, yeah, I want to be a pilot. And actually going into the ATC training corps was, that will help me. So that will help me become, maybe get a scholarship into the RAF and learn to fly. And so there was obviously some thinking behind it, but that wasn't necessarily the only reason at the time.
Mm,
But it helped, because I did learn to. I didn't learn to fly per se, but I did fly planes,
yeah.
gliders, and small planes. But there's another part to this story because I am actually colorblind, so
Okay.
not wildly colorblind. So I actually got a an invite to do a flying scholarship. So I went to Biggin Hill at the time. And on day one, I was maybe 16 at the time. And on day one, they said, yeah, you can't because you're colorblind. And apparently it's dangerous having color blindness when you fly in a plane. Of course, I'm kidding. It's very dangerous. So that was another one of those nudges where I was thinking, okay, so I had a plan.
Mm,
Now I need to rethink.
yeah.
That's just the way
Yeah.
things go, isn't it?
Was that really disappointing to
Oh
realize
yeah.
that if you'd had
Oh,
that dream? Yeah.
hugely so. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
hugely so. Because when you set a goal, and I'm a big one for goal setting overall, but when you set a goal and then I had all the aptitude I needed, I think I had the intelligence I needed too, but my eyes let me down. So and there's no way of correcting that, unfortunately. So
Mm,
yeah, it was a huge disappointment at the time, and probably I spent a little while going, well, actually, what next? Where does my career now take me? So I carried on into A levels, and even at the end of the A levels, I had no real clue. So yeah, it was a disappointment, no question.
wow. I think that's an ingrained personality trait in people who've gone on to become CEOs or do something really successful with their lives as well, is when they get that obstacle and they get nudged in a different direction, they just go with it and find a new opportunity. So do you think that's just part of your personality?
I think you've just got to go with it. I mean, nobody's going to necessarily give you all the answers. No one's going to show you the path and the way. And actually, going back to a really important question you asked earlier, from about the age of 12, I was carving my own path anyway. So I remember it vividly being in the sort of the dormitory block when I'd just come back from having my eyes tested in Biggin Hill and sitting there going, well, that's it now. I've got to do something different. And it was a very strange feeling because I actually went home the same day where everybody else was going to be there for another week doing all these other tests. So, but yes, I
Wow.
think so because you can choose one of two paths. You can either wallow and woe is me, or you can go, well, that's no longer a path. What's the
Mm,
next one? And I
yeah,
wouldn't say it's
absolutely.
always easy to do that, by the way, because sometimes you have nudges in life that you don't want. And it's not just a case of going, oh, well, move on. It takes a bit of time to process. I do think, though, it sort of gave me some of those characteristics that I've still got to this day, which go, right, actually, half glass full, that's not going to work. What are the other options of things I can do?
Absolutely. It's that one door closes, like five more open somewhere else, and you just got to go and, yeah, go and find the breeze to follow. Definitely.
And sometimes you have to kick them down because they're not
Yeah,
open at all. So you have to just go, right, I'm
absolutely.
going to just do this.
Yeah, definitely. So throughout that experience, then you learned a lot about teamwork and camaraderie and all of that stuff. How long were you there? What else did you learn that you took with you into a new career? And then what was the sort of pivotal point of leaving there and going on to do what you did next?
Yeah, I've been there for about 4 years. some of the things I've already talked about, discipline, the way I presented myself, both, from a dress code perspective. Because if you can imagine, if it's very military-esque, you've got to have
Mm.
your trousers have got to be ironed, probably your shoes have got to be clean, your shirts have got to be nicely ironed. All those things that actually to some degree are less important these days than they were back then. Even from a business sense, we have a lot more relaxed business dress code, but it still makes, to this day, me think about, how do I present myself when I'm in front of customers? How do I
First
present myself
impressions.
from a language perspective? All these other things. And I'm sure it comes back from those 4 years, which, I'm over 50 now. So it's less than 10% of my life, but
Yeah.
right, not a lot less, but it's had a significant impact in the way that I now approach things.
Mm.
I left when I got to the age of 18, and again, no great mystery to these things. When you get to 18, you have different choices, different things you can go and do, different distractions. And I think that with things like the Cadet Force, the ATC, you do outgrow it at some point. And I think I got to the point where I then got into full-time employment and just outgrew it. It was great while it lasted, and you
Mm.
have to know when it's time to move on.
Yeah, definitely. With that experience that you had, obviously, I've spoken to a lot of people that have sort of come from a similar background, and they've said similar things about how important it was and the things they learned along the way. Do you think there's value? And I'm not talking about what's it called, forced service, for school age people or anything like that, unless you want to comment on that. That is there value, do you think, in being in environments like that, even for a short amount of time, even as a extracurricular club, being involved in a community like that, helping shape who you are for the rest of your life and bringing those values?
Yeah, I'm not a big advocate of national service. I think that um, the essence of what you're talking about is right. So being in a team, a community, something where you can get positive role models that are going to help
Mm.
guide you, shape you, feed back to you, because at that age you don't know what you don't know. So I
Yeah.
do think being involved in something, and it doesn't matter what it is something that's got to be deeply passionate. I was a football player. I was in the ATC. They were my two big things in my formative years. So all
And
of
it could
that,
be sports, couldn't it? It could be
it could
sports.
be anything. Yeah,
There's lots of analogies around sports and leadership, lots of books written on the subject as well, and how that connects to each other. Wi- During that time then, did you have a really strong role model or someone that you saw in a leadership position, you were like, that's brilliant, that's
yeah.
who I needed in my life at that time?
Yeah, several. Yeah, so whether it's the managers of the football teams that I was in, some of the officers within the ATC in that case, but even some of the school teachers. I went to a school called Henry Box in Witney in Oxfordshire. Even some of those were good role, not all, but
Mm.
some of those were good role models. But again, it goes back to me being fairly self-driven, in that I kind of take the bits that I think are right for me from a values
Yeah.
perspective. I don't take the bits where they'll compromise my values. I'm quite stubborn, my wife would say. She's wrong, of course. Um, uh, but yes, I mean, so the having something, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's sport, music, but something that you're really deeply passionate about, that, either as an individual pursuit that gives you discipline or with a team. I think it's really important in those
Mm.
years to participate in things like that.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Were there any examples of poor leadership or questionable leadership that you witnessed during that time as well, that you've also taken that into your working life and career?
Yes, some I can't talk about. But yeah, of course there is. There's yeah, people who overexert their authority for no good reason.
Mm-hmm.
People who don't stand by what they say they're going to do. And we see that in all walks of life to this day. But again, you
Yeah.
either mirror and you repeat, or you observe, you learn, and you don't repeat. And so I'm a big believer in the importance of values. So
Mm.
honesty, integrity, treat people with respect, treat people how you want to
Yeah.
be treated yourself, and many others. Um, People don't always display those behaviors and those values, Jess.
Yeah.
And that's not, and so it's a personal choice as to whether you follow that path or not. I choose not to. So, regardless of who I'm talking to, what their role is, what their status is, it doesn't matter to me. I'll treat everybody exactly the same. And I
Really?
find that you get that same thing in return when you treat people equally. Yeah.
Yeah,
Clearly,
100%. If
people
you
don't
and I
always
think it
reciprocate, but
yeah, I think it's similar in parenting as well, isn't it? I think if you treat them as, small adults as well and bring them along for the journey, you kind of get what you need from them and they learn some lessons along the way as well. Yeah,
they do.
definitely.
I've had two golden rules for my kids. They'll probably roll their eyes if I said this, but two golden rules. Very simple. Number one, never lie. So if they've done stuff that they're not proud of and they've got into trouble, and they did at school because they're boys, just tell me. You tell me, and I'll back you, and we'll work it out. If you
Mm,
lie, that's a different set of problems altogether. So never lie. Number
yeah.
one. Number two, treat people how you want to be treated yourself.
Mm,
And touch wood, to this day, all three of them still live by those rules, and they're doing pretty well in life. So it's not difficult. It doesn't need to be over engineered, but just
yeah.
simple principles that you stick to really
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah. How early did you identify what your values are? Um, and have they changed? Have you added more?
Oof. I think that you don't necessarily realize what your values are until someone labels them as values. And I don't think you often see that until you get into working life. So,
Yeah.
the honesty, integrity, timekeeping, they've kind of been there all the time. But it's when people labels them or someone compromises them that you realize they're really important to you.
Yeah,
So I think they've been
absolutely.
there all the time. They do change over time. So as my role has changed from, I started off in the banking industry, Nat West, in the machine. It's called the machine room. Basically, when you're putting the checks through, that's what I did in the
Right.
early part of
Wow.
my career. And then went into customer service, different set. Then I went into sales, and that's a different set again. But there is a red thread that goes through them around how you deal with people, how you
Yeah.
turn up, how you react, how you respond. So I think they've
Mm,
always been there from those formative years. But it's only later on that you go, they are really important to me, and they become really important when you see people not doing them, and you go,
yeah.
I can't be tolerating that kind of behaviour.
Yeah. And then you have to think about why that is, and you're like, oh, that's why. That's because that's what I value in people
Yes,
and
yes, exactly
relationships.
right. Yeah.
100%. What you mentioned that you kind of outgrew it. So the age of 18, what were your options at that point and what were you leaning towards and how did you get into sales, I guess? What was the next
Yeah,
step?
yeah, good question. My options were get a job because I had to. So I remember
Mm,
applying to NatWest and went to the interview and was lucky enough to get it. It was a starter job, really low wage at the time as it was.
mm,
Uh, for context, this is back in 1993.
wow.
Yeah, 1993. So I did that for a little bit, and then actually we talk about nudges. A friend of mine who was also one of my instructors actually in the ATC was working in a company in a town over from where I live in Abingdon, so not West Oxfordshire, further over. He said, "Oh, they're looking for customer service people," and do you know what it was? They said, "And they're paying this," and I'm like, "Well, that's more than I'm currently getting," and I would like to say it was
Wow.
some complex thought process. It wasn't. It was, I'm going to get paid more money.
I can
Then I
earn
was
some
thinking, well,
money.
I
Yeah.
can't drive at that point. How am I going to get there? And he said, well, I'll take you each day. That was all good.
Nice.
But I didn't realize, Jess, and when we were having a pre-conversation around all this, I didn't realize the significance of the move because as it turns out, this was 1994. As it turns out, 3 years later, I would then get together with my wife. I've been with her ever since. Had I not made the move and gone to that job, we'd never have met.
Wow.
So it was one of those nudges. Although, as it weirdly turned out later on, she was actually the best friend of our family friends from our early childhood years. Who lived at the bottom of the garden. I mean, how weird is that?
Yeah.
And I would have been in
Wow.
the house with her at the same time with this shared friend, probably about, I don't know, when we were 10, maybe 11.
Oh my
I know
goodness.
it's a small world, right?
It is
But
reunited all those years later.
reunited, but blissfully unaware, right? So yeah, so that was one of those nudges where I went and worked for this company called Unicare in Abingdon. They were a mobile phone company who were part of Unipart. Figure that one out.
Mm.
Unipart, the car parts company.
Okay.
And I stayed there for the whole time until they then got acquired by Vodafone. But what happened, to go back to your question, was when Joe and I got together in 1997, she was actually my line manager at the time. We were in customer
Oh,
service.
sneaky.
In fact, I think she was my line manager's manager, so two up. So, yeah, sneaky. There was no sneakiness in it, Jeff. I'll tell you that. We got together and it worked for a while. And then at some point, one of the senior managers said, "No, you can't work together because you're in the same department. So, and by the way, you need to turn up to work in different cars because you can't be seen to come to work together." And I'm like, why does that matter? You know?
Mm.
And anyway, so they moved me out. They moved me into a different role, and it was a weird role. I can't even remember exactly what it is. But one day, the MD of the company called my phone and said, "Could you come up to the office? I want to see you." And long story short, he said, "We got an opportunity for you to work in the corporate sales team. We think you would do all right at that." And I was thinking, I've never done sales in my life,
Mm.
but I can talk to people.
Yeah.
So is that all it takes? And took the sales job, having never ever planned to do that in my life, never even crossed my mind. That was back in 1998, and of course we're 20, not very good at maths. That's 28 years later, 27 years later. I'm still in a sales role. Yes, my position's changed slightly, but I'm still in the sales role. So that was that nudge where I got the call. The MD called me up. "Do you want to do this?" "Yeah, I'll give it a go." Seemed to work out all right at it. And then when Vodafone acquired this company back in 1999, I just moved, and that then leads to the next nudge, which we'll come to in a minute.
Wow. So if you hadn't moved, you wouldn't have met your wife. But
No.
if you hadn't been in a relationship with your wife, you wouldn't have been nudged to the other department.
No.
You probably wouldn't have had that conversation with the CEO at the time. So all of these things, led to something new. In terms of the sales element, you said, you never had any ambitions to be in sales, never done it before. Did you have training on it, or did you find that you were kind of just naturally good at it because of the fact, the skills that you've learned along the way?
I think the skills that I learned from being in sports teams to being in the ATC meant I could communicate with people quite comfortably. So I think they certainly helped be in a sales role, but I definitely got trained on it. And actually, I remember doing some early training when I first got into the sales role. It was a 5-day course in London with a company and learned loads of stuff then, and actually still learning stuff to this day. You never stop learning when you're in a sales role. But the interesting thing was in 2000, it was either 2000 or 2001, I can't remember exactly what, there was a fuel blockade. I don't know whether you can remember that far back, which meant the whole country pretty much ran out of fuel.
Wow.
And I was at Merry Hill in Birmingham with a company called Laureus, who became mentor to do some sales training for me. And a guy called Jim McManus, who to this day is a really good friend. He was the sales trainer who was training us on all these skills during my time at Vodafone. So I then stayed, and then I got promoted to a management role in Vodafone, but kept in touch with all the training that Mentor did for Vodafone over many years. And then one year, it was 2006, I saw Jim and I said, "By the way, I'm loving what you do, and I'd love to do something like that in my future career. If you ever have any openings within Mentor, I'd love to explore them." And my kids at that point, so 2006, would have been 7, 5, and 3. So, really little. Not much different to the age yours are now. Yours are slightly older. So going from a corporate company to a non-corporate company was like, I'm not sure this is necessarily the right thing to do. But I did it anyway. And I joined Mentor in 1st of February 2007. And I've been there ever since. So when we talk about those nudges, the cascade. Had I not moved to the company in Abingdon, I'd never have met my wife. Maybe I would have done, but who knows?
Who
Had
knows?
I not done that, I'd never been moved into sales. I've never moved to sales. I've never gone to Vodafone, met up with
Mm,
Laureus, that then became Mentor, that then became the company I worked for. And now I end up being the CEO of Mentor. So, yeah, there's a couple more nudges still to talk about. But
yeah.
things do happen for a reason. It's not always evident or clear why, but they do
Mm.
tend to happen for a reason.
Is that something that you believe in? That sort of, that things do happen for a reason? Because from what you've said, you've said yes to everything that's come across your path, really, essentially. Is that what's happened, or is it more
No,
spiritual?
no, I don't think I've always said yes. I mean, I think there's been opportunities that have come up along the way where I've gone, no, that's absolutely not right for me, or um, even at my time in Mentor, I was asked to do other opportunities, and I'm like, no, that's not for me. It's not right. So I think the things happen for a reason. There would be a mass of people who go, yeah, but that happened. What was the reason behind that? And you can't explain everything.
Yeah.
For me, the nudges that we're talking about led to something else. We'll
Mm,
never know whether they would have led to something different had I not had them.
yeah.
So I think they did happen for me in those cases for a reason. There's other things that have happened in my life just where you go, well, why did that happen? And there is no sense making in that.
Mm,
Just isn't.
yeah.
But in the career perspective, and by the way, some of it was by design. It wasn't all by accident. So, moving into Mentor was by design because I had the conversation and then made the decision to move into the role. I did account
Yeah.
management then for 8 years, and then working with the team, made a decision to do something else, and then another, and then another. So not everything
Mm,
happens just by chance. It really
yeah.
doesn't. There is
Yeah.
work and effort that goes in there. Um, However, I do believe the nudges that I've had led me to this place that I'm at now.
Yeah, absolutely. When those opportunities come your way, then are you quite analytical about it, pros and cons, or do you go with your gut? Do you lean on that?
Yeah, the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was more analytical sometimes. I'm trying to be, with a few years more experience, but
Mm,
often it is a gut feel. I've actually learned over the years to just take a step back and go, right, don't just go yes, think about what it is and then make an informed choice. But I am
yeah.
very much gut driven. Yeah.
Yeah. So if it feels right,
Yeah.
then it's probably going to be a yes for you. Love
Often.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Um, I think people do talk about gut instincts quite a lot, don't they? And I do you think that's important in business to listen to that gut, or is
Yeah.
there a balance?
Intuition. Yeah, I do. I
Yeah.
do. You know, there's a balance, right? You should also look at the what the data and the evidence is showing you. The thing about intuition and gut is it's based on years of experience.
Mm,
So, and in my experience, it's often proved right. Sometimes it's not. So you go back to your back catalogue of experiences. Or I've seen that before. How would I or how should I react? Is that
yeah.
appropriate to the situation? Then move forward. So I think it's important to listen to that experience and not dismiss it.
Yeah.
And I also think it's important not to just dismiss it straight away.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. What was the next nudge then? Because obviously you're at Mentor now, you're working your way up, account management, and then you're now the CEO. So how does that happen?
Yeah, that's a good one. So we had a conversation back in late 2021 into early 2022 around, where does my path within the organization go now?
Was
And
that
actually, it was
instigated by you?
yeah,
Was
it was
that
instigated by
yeah.
me, that particular conversation. So because
Mm,
I'd been doing a certain role for probably at that point 4 years, I was also looking to the future, going right. Actually, I'm in that final third of my career now. If you think about it in years terms, which means I've got to
oh,
really capital. I know it's scary, isn't it?
yeah.
Um, but it's true. If I think that you've got, let's say, 45, 50 years of a career, I've already done a lot. I've already done 32 years of that. So, as 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 sad as it may sound, I'm now in that last third. So, and I'm okay with that, by the way, because the previous 2/3 have been great fun. In
Yeah,
this last third, you go right. Actually, what do I want to do that is going to be really purposeful? Can you hear that plane, by the way?
I can.
Yeah.
Is that your
So
end?
yeah. Alex is going to appear. We need to go again on that one. We did so well. Half an hour in, no mistakes.
I know, we were doing so good.
Oh yeah, okay. I did it a couple of times, but I'm trying to keep my hands down by my side.
Okay.
Do you want to go from the top of that question, Jess, and then we can?
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? So we had all those nudges to get to where you are today. You were in mentor, account management, working your way up, but you are now the CEO. So how does that happen?
Yeah, so we late 21, early 22, I was in conversation with the owners who were looking to do something different moving forward, whether that was to grow in other ways or to raise money for whatever it was. But I was also at that point in my career where I'm going, right, what do I do now for the remaining part of my career? And I've still got loads of time left ahead of me in terms of my career. If I look at it in a slightly different way, I am in the final third of my working career. You look at 32 years of career to date, and you go, right, actually, if I've got let's say I've got another 15 to 20 years, that's getting close to the final third. I started to sort of ponder on that then, Jess, and think, well, what's my legacy going to be for my kids? So I start to think, in this final third, what can I do that's purposeful? What can I do which is going to leave an impression on the people that I work with, our customers, but also for my family, the legacy that I can leave them. And that sort of sparked a conversation around, well, what next for me in Mentor? And we then pursued a management buyout. So myself and three other people worked together to raise funding to do the MBO. And then we started talking. I'll never forget, it was in Swindon. So between you and I, Jess, I'm in Bryce, you're in Cardiff, aren't you?
Yeah.
In Swindon. And we sat around and go, right, who's going to do what role then? And it was like, well, Matt, you're doing the CEO role. And I'm like, oh, okay. No debate. And of course, I was very happy to do that, to take the company forward. So we took throughout 2022, and then early 2023, we completed the MBO. So I became the CEO, and there's three former owners. Two of them moved on and retired. One of them still works around with us to this day. So yeah, and it's been great. So that was the next real major nudge for me.
Yeah.
Taking on the CEO role. And you can imagine, I went from a position of looking after one person, me, to then having a team of 24 people that were, I'm accountable for them. I'm accountable for driving the business to make sure they've got careers, to make sure that they've got livelihoods, to make sure that we deliver great stuff for our customers on an ongoing basis. So from very little pressure to quite a lot, almost overnight. But we're 2.5 years in now. Learned a lot over the last 2.5 years, and honestly, I don't know what the next nudge is going to be now. Jess, it's a bit of an undiscovered country for me, but there will be more, of course. There will be plenty more. Yeah,
definitely. There's sort of two angles to that, isn't it? You talked about, you were wondering, what your legacy is going to be and what you're going to leave behind and what impact you're going to have, and that feels quite personal, doesn't it, to you? But then suddenly you are responsible for all of these other people and developing these as well. So you've got sort of two levels of responsibility there that you're suddenly landed with. What was it a shock to the system, or did you find the transition easy? What would you go back and say to yourself, just before you took over that role now with everything you've learned?
Not easy. So the responsibility of running a company is never easy, because it's really important. It's really important to all the people that you just described there. That puts pressure on the family because of being, quite frankly, really immersed in it. I'm one of these people who's either all in or not.
Yeah.
So when I'm doing something which is so important to me and those around me, I give it everything. Absolutely everything. And again, going back to those formative years, it probably all stems from that. So I don't think you can be half into these things. You've got to just give it all it is. So, but absolutely not easy. And lessons along the way around how to deal with people and the differences in behaviors of people and how they will outwardly express it is different, and the
Yeah.
lack of feedback that you get. If I could talk to myself from 2.5 years ago, I would just say, look, set your expectation bar a little bit lower in terms of the way people will engage with you, the way they'll react to you as a leader, because they're not going to react to you in the way that you would react to yourself, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It's a strange thing, I think, isn't it? Going from being an employee in a business and then suddenly running it and responsible for it. Did you have any challenges in terms of the team and how they responded to you, change your behavior with your new role? And how was that for you? Because I can imagine you're going to be treated differently.
Definitely treated differently, but actually treated well. I think over the years, having been around for a long time, built up a good amount of goodwill, capital in the bank with the team. And again, going back to some of those values that I talk about, treating people the same, they have really served me in good stead. So yes, people do treat me differently because I'm the CEO of the company. So they're going to be naturally a little bit more guarded, I think.
Yeah.
I've got to be mindful of my presence around people sometimes, not because I'm going to judge or do anything any differently, but I'm not thinking about it from their perspective if I think about it from mine. So, but no, I think generally people have treated me more or less the same, maybe with just a
That's
little bit
good.
more guardedness. It is good because
Yeah.
I can go back to the point. It should be non-hierarchical. People have absolutely every right to come to me and say, I don't like this, or I've got this idea, or I think we can do this differently. And I actively encourage doing that. Some people will feel less comfortable doing that just because of the name of the role.
Mm.
And it doesn't matter how often you say, it's okay to do this, please come to me.
Yeah.
People will still feel uncomfortable with that. But
Yeah.
generally, I would say that's not a problem at all in mental.
That's brilliant. That's really.
Yeah.
What would you say to those leaders then that are still living in in the era of glass closed office, receptionists, really invisible, almost hard to approach, hard to get to? Are you quite, do you chat to people? Do you walk around? I just, those types of leaders at the moment feel very old school now and very out of touch.
I mean, I talk to everybody and anybody. I think we've got to be visible. We've got to be present. We've got to be approachable. There's no point being closed away in an office and not listening to people's perspectives and ideas, because
Mm.
actually, as leaders, we absolutely do not have all the answers, and it's a
Yeah.
myth if we think we do. So, how
Mm.
can we get the very best from our people? Well, we give them a level of autonomy. We give them a level of ideation.
Mm.
Creativity. There really is no such thing as a bad idea. It doesn't always mean they're going to be taken forward, but yeah, you've got to embrace those around you and allow them to come up with these solutions. Because if we think as leaders we've got all of the solutions, we're kidding ourselves. It's just not like
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need those people to drive the business. And especially if you're not in the nitty gritty day to day and you're overseeing things, you need those different perspectives to help you make those decisions. 100%. You you talked a lot about values, and that's something that's really important to you. How do you keep those and behave in the same way that align to your values when you're under pressure or you're working through uncertainty or there are some challenges within the business?
Yeah, great question. I actually think the values are even more important when you're under pressure. I really do. So, whether it's you're against the number or the market conditions are not as easy at the moment. Now's not the time to deviate away from values. So now's not the time to treat people differently. Now's not the time to not be transparent. Now's not the time to be unapproachable. Because actually, if we're feeling it and we exhibit those behaviors, the people who work with us feel it as much.
Yeah,
So
100%.
you've got I personally try very hard, and I'm not a saint. I don't get it right all the time, and nobody does. The values are that anchor that come back to that make sure that you are doing the right things with your team, with people along the way. And it is difficult. You just have to be more mindful of it when things are slightly more tricky, and catch yourself from time to time. Go, no, don't do that. Make sure you behave in the same way. But it does slip
Definitely.
every now and again, just because we're human beings.
Yeah.
So I try very hard to be quite considered in my behaviors, in my
Mm.
emotions, but I'm also a human being. So from time to time,
Yeah.
that might not always be the case. It's how you then deal with that after the event, especially when you're dealing with people, that shows that your values are still there.
Yeah.
It's not a
100%.
wishy-washy answer, I'm hoping, because I
No.
think values are so important to root you into the way you should behave.
Yeah.
Whether times are good or bad,
Mm.
um, the emotions are the bit which are slightly more difficult to control.
Yeah. And like you said, we are all human, and we all, lose control sometimes.
Yeah,
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 we're all animals, and it's yeah, like you said, it's how you come back from that and how you deal with it. How is it? I just want to go back to the, you're part of a team, you're part of the workforce almost, and now you're the CEO. You have that camaraderie and team spirit
yep,
within the business in
yep.
one part. When you're actually transitioning to being that leader, it can be quite isolating, because you can't have the same conversations with the same people maybe that you were having before. Do you have that support now, as like whether through your own mentorship or, through your wife? Like, who do you offload to?
Yeah, my wife's a great sounding board, and a great perspective changer.
Mm.
So I do. Yeah, you have to offload some of what's going on to someone, and she's great. She listens and says, "Yeah, but what about this? What about that?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, good point." So
Mm.
Joe's absolutely brilliant for that. I have a coach, and I think all leaders should have a coach, where you try and find ways to improve the way that you behave, the way that you interact. I don't think anybody should ever stop learning and ever stop trying to find, their own marginal gain to make them better. So I have a coach that I work with on a monthly basis. But also I solicit feedback. I'm a little bit of a feedback junkie, actually. So from members of the team, direct reports, I say, look, give me some feedback. Where's my marginal gain from your
Mm.
perspective? And again, some people across the business are a bit more guarded. They'll go, no, everything's fine. Others, not so much. And they'll go, well, let me tell you this. And bosh, bosh, bosh. And
Yeah.
I'd be careful what you wish for sometimes. But I think it's really important to have that sounding board, number one, but then have that feedback loop to try and
Yeah.
improve, for me to try and improve. Because 2.5 years is not a long time. And I'm still learning loads of stuff in
Mm.
terms of running a business, that I know
Yeah.
a lot more than I knew 2.5 years ago. And I'll know a lot more in 2.5 years than I know now.
Mm.
So I think in the absence of getting that feedback loop in, you're really missing a trick. It's important to make sure that's an ongoing process.
100%. That's an interesting point, actually. You were in the sales department, and now, so that would be where your expert knowledge was, and now
Mm.
suddenly you are going to have to be involved by default in all of the other systems and processes, departments within the business. How have you navigated that? Is it training on how things work, or have you got great people that you can just lead that stuff to?
I don't need to be an expert in every department and what they do. That's not my job.
Mm.
So great functional leaders within the business who know far more about what they do than I'm ever going to know.
Mm.
And I'm respectful of that. So it goes back to the point that we made a moment ago. If you're locked away from your team, how can they come to you with ideas of improvement? They're going to know better than I know around how you can improve operational efficiency or customer experience or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
I know a little bit. I know enough to
Mm.
be dangerous, right? But I don't know it all. And I think having the leaders in the business who know their functions far better than I do,
Yeah.
and then people within their team who know far more than they do, is the
Mm.
healthy way to do things.
Amazing. Yeah, it's that you always hire someone who's better than you, right? At whatever you want them to
Absolutely.
be doing within the business. Always do
Yeah.
that. I guess in your case though, you've inherited a team. So is that, have there been any challenges there? So where you've thought around, values and behaviors of their, I appreciate you probably can't be, going into detail with this question, but it's easier, I suppose, if there is a founder who is building a team from scratch, because they can make sure that they're hiring the people that they like to work with. I think would be a good fit. And I've spoken to others who have worked their way up, and they've inherited teams that are maybe not what they would have chosen for various reasons. Has there been any challenges around that?
I actually think it's a bit of a myth that you say, well, we'll start the team from scratch and build it up and recruit exactly the people that we want. It's really hard to do that, by the way.
Yeah.
Because people are predictably unpredictable. So what you think you're going to get from someone, you don't always get from somebody. So whereas with the team that we inherited as the MBO, we knew the people, we knew the individuals, we knew their strengths, we knew their foibles, if that's such a word.
Yeah.
We knew all of that. What we do have is a North Star, 3 values: openness, one team, and ownership, which we go into that. Yes, there's sometimes behaviors that are exhibited that I personally wouldn't do. Doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong, but if they are wrong, you have to feed that back with evidence to say, you did this. This was the impact to your customers or your team, or whatever. Not doing something about it is not an answer. So actually, we've been quite fortunate to have got a team together who are very experienced, very loyal, very trustworthy. And then the skill then is to just, like I mentioned a moment ago, keep finding those marginal gains to improve the team along the way. And it's work in progress.
Yeah, definitely. Just revisiting a little bit about what you do. What do you think our businesses are getting wrong about hiring and training sales teams today?
Let's split them out in terms of the hiring thing. First of all, is they're not clear about what they're hiring for, what the role is, what the attributes need to be, what the experience need to be. Far too often people will go for a safe hire, so they've been in that vertical industry already, and they'll say, well, we need someone in that vertical industry. Not always true, because actually someone from outside is a good thing. So, but it has to start with what is the profile that you're recruiting for? What are the skills and attributes that are non-negotiables for you? And what are some of the attitudes and mindsets that you're looking for from the hire in order to do it? Some of the mistakes people do make, and we've been responsible as anybody, is we hire people that we know because we know them. And then often you get people that are very similar to you because we gravitate to people like us. It's called rapport. So we do that. And I think that's not always the best way, because you then don't get fresh thinking or different perspectives.
Interesting.
So that's a wash word, be clear on what you're recruiting for, and then take time. Don't rush it, and find the right fit. And it doesn't have to be somebody with years of experience that would be the best person. It could be someone with the most adaptability, the most growth mindseted individual. It could be anything. So, but don't rush. I think often hires are made at pace, and that can often unwind as you go into the process. So that's the first thing. Sales training, which is what we do, is really interesting, because sales training is not an event. It's not let's do sales training and do a 2-day event in August 2025 and tick the box and job done. It goes back to what I was a bit of what I was talking about earlier with sport and with the ATC and everything else. You don't just train once and then everything is different. It doesn't work like that. The brain is frankly not that adaptable that quickly. It takes practice. It takes repetition. It takes coaching. It takes feedback. So, event-based training in many cases doesn't work. Sales training or management training or whatever it is, whatever the topic is, it doesn't matter. It's about making sure that you can systemize the learning into your day-to-day role. That's where organizations sometimes make a mistake and say, well, we've got to do X number of days training per year, and then we've ticked the box. No. Yes, train people up. And of course, people are far more likely to absorb information in smaller bite-sized chunks these days, just because of the nature of the way we consume information.
Yeah.
and then practice it. Go and give it a go. Get some coaching. Try it again. Get some more coaching. Try it again. That's the way the brain creates stronger neural pathways from that loop. So, and the second point I'd make, and then I'm going to stop rabbiting on about this, is when times do get tougher in organizations, quite often one of the things that goes first is training. Oh no, we can't afford to train the people. We can't afford to
Yeah.
take them away from their day-to-day role. That's when you do need to be training them. Because if things are difficult and you're trying to get hold of new customers, or you're trying to retain existing customers, that's
Yeah.
when you sharpen the saw. That's when you improve the skills and capabilities of your team to make sure you give the very best customer experience. You've got the
Yeah.
very best value proposition. You can engage them in the right way. That's why training is vitally important now. And this is not a shameless plug, Jess, by the way. It really isn't, because what we do working with sales teams, we're deeply passionate about. And this message I'm giving to you about the importance of learning something and then practice it over and over
Yeah.
again and then being coached. It's just the way that we work. What I do know is when people are finding times difficult, that's when you need to develop, you need to improve, and you need to, find those marginal gains.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm asking because I am interested with, businesses that I'm talking to or working with are,
Mm.
hiring for sales roles, or they are looking for a new BDM or whatever it is, but they are often quite unclear of what that needs to look like and what the objectives are for that role. I know this is probably a how long's a piece of string question, but maybe there are some general ones. But what attributes should a business be looking for if they are looking for that first sales role? What makes a good salesperson, and what makes them coachable as well, so that you can continue that learning?
Yeah, good question. So definitely a growth mindset. So all the stuff I've been talking about, people's belief that they are not the finished product. So
Mm,
you can be trained, you can be developed, and you are likely to be a different seller in this case a
mm,
year from now. You're not fixed. In fact, I often joke with people who say I've got 20 years experience. I say, have you got 20 years experience, or have you got 1 year repeated 20 times? Because
mm,
sometimes it is that they just continue to do the same thing. Sales is changing so fast now because of technology and automation, and how
yeah.
AI can be used to drive operational efficiency. You definitely need to have a technology mindset around how you can use AI and other tools to, frankly, make you more efficient, give you much better knowledge of your customer
Mm,
in a much quicker way, providing you
yeah.
do it in the right way. You've absolutely got to still be focused on the customer and the outcomes of the customer, and not on personal gain. And I
Yeah.
say that quite deliberately, because if you look after that, the other will follow.
Mm,
But if it feels like it's internally focused, i.e., what I'm doing is driven to achieve my goals, the customers will smell that a mile off.
yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Relationships, your ability to adapt your behaviors to who's in front of you, still really, really important. Sales is the oldest profession in the world, right? So, and people buy from people they like, or people buy from people like them. So if your behavior is a certain way and you're not adapting it, you're
Mm,
probably going to be successful 1 in 4 times. Whereas if you
yeah.
can adapt to them and their outcomes, you're going to be successful far more often. So if I look at that, it's the ability to grow and adapt, growth mindset, the
Yeah.
ability to embrace technology and have a level of technology literacy, the
Yeah.
ability to make sure your focus is absolutely on the customer, and then build great relationships. Now, I could go on, but as I look at what the most successful sellers are doing, they're going to be
Yeah.
pretty good in all four of those areas.
Yeah. What do you say to the old, I don't think if it, I don't know if it is old school, but the idea of the farmer and the hunter scenario, and that you need these two types of people within a business? Um, because the building relationships thing is often associated with the farmer, and then, that the hunter's just out there just like pummeling. Is that still valid, or is it, a bit of a myth?
Yeah, well, it's not a myth, because actually, when you look at hunter and farmer roles, they often do have slightly different attributes. So one is more driven by high levels of activity, a bit of a numbers game, have to have a bit of mental resilience and toughness, particularly if you're doing your own prospecting, because you're going to get a lot of no's. Some people just don't like that. They don't like that at all. The point around rapport is equally as important for both, because if I'm dealing with somebody who I've never met before, my ability to create fast rapport as a hunter is really, really important, and then focus on them really, really quickly. It's important in both sides. So it's not rare, but it's more unusual where you see people who can do both roles really well.
Wow.
Because
Okay.
of that.
So if you were looking,
so it's not a myth. It's absolutely
not
not a myth. No. And actually, in my experience, fewer people want to do a hunter role over a farmer role. Now, whether that's a perception of ease, or whether that's a perception I'm far better building long-term relationships as a farmer, that some of the skills and attributes are the same. The biggest difference is when you are doing a new business role or a hunter role, unless you've got a fantastic lead generation source or a BDR team, you have to do a lot of that work yourself. And some people choose not to do that. That's the biggest difference.
Is what you mentioned about tech and automation and things like that, is cold calling, is there still a place for that? Or does it now need to be worked into the sort of, the tech, the automation sequence as a step, for instance? Like, how do you see that now?
So both, actually. So new business in particular is about sequencing now, using technology and picking the phone up. I'll tell you, having been in the role for 2.5 years nearly, at the end of September, I've received 3 cold calls in 2.5 years.
Wow.
Probably 3,000 emails.
Yeah.
And I've not responded to a single email. And that's not me being rude. Most of them just go straight into the spam filters.
Yeah,
they
they
get
do.
cleared out for me anyway. The 3 calls I did have, I engaged with them, and had a conversation with them. And I didn't buy anything, full transparency, because it's not what we needed. But the fact that people made the effort to call worked for me. Now, that's me, my generation. Buyers of different generations might not respond at all to a cold call. So it goes back to that agility piece, Jess, again, doesn't it? In that you've got to know your audience, you've got to know who you're contacting, you've got to know what's going to be interesting to them. So sequencing, providing you know what your ideal customer profile is, you know what the value proposition is to them, not to you, to them. And then you keep a campaign going using technology of different modalities, and yes, pick the phone up from time to time. Why not? It absolutely does still work. It is still important.
Interesting. Yeah, lots of teams resist it still, don't they? Like, well, no one's in the office anymore. Everyone's working from home, so they're not going to answer their mobiles, all the rest of it, and do tend to avoid it a little bit.
It's a limiting belief. People still do pick the phone up. In fact, we won a deal with a customer. It's a slightly different angle, but during 2021, so after COVID, where we couldn't see anybody during 2020 anyway, so that was a moot point. But this particular one, I went to see them in person, and actually the feedback they gave is the reason that we went with you as a new customer was because... Did you hear that?
Yeah, that's all right though. Carry on.
2021. So the reason they chose us in the end is because they said, you're the only supplier out of 5 that we are talking to who made the trip to come and see us in person.
Interesting.
Now, you think about all these unique selling points and everything else. That was really easy. Just turn up. So, and similarly, if someone picks the phone up, for me personally as a buyer, I'm more likely to engage them. So it does change based on who you are, but sometimes the basics are missed, and the basics of engagement and engagement in the relevant way to the buyer, they're just missed, and we get stuck behind technology sometimes, and actually sometimes a bit lazy as well. We go, right, we need to do 50 outbound, so we can send 50 emails, tick, done. And that's the wrong metric. The right metric is, if you've sent 50, how many did you get a response from? How many have you had a follow-up with? So you focus on the wrong things. So technology in sales, if you think about it as a bit of a seesaw, where technology played a lower part historically, there was some automation and Google Alerts historically and other things that you could use, but they were great for feeding information. What's going to happen over time is it's going to just sort of start to tilt the other way, where technology, including AI, can do a lot more of the automation and fact finding and materials production, proposals, and a number of other things. It can help you create all of those. Now, what we've got to be careful of is that we don't lose that personal touch. So when using things like AI, it's AI plus the seller or the sales leader or whichever role that you're in, to make sure that what's being created is being sense checked, it is being validated, it is accurate, it is personalized, it is delivering the outcomes that the customer is looking for. Because I think, and you use the word lazy, but there could be a school of thought that says all this automation is going to mean I'm going to have all these hours in the day to do nothing. But that's not true. What technology is going to give are hours in the day back to do other things, and it could be more proactivity with your customers, it could be more visits, more calls, it could be loads of other things. So the truism is embrace the technology because it's really going to help. It really is. Making sure that the personalization is still evident there. That's the skill of a modern seller, to bring the two of those together.
Absolutely. Is within the work that you're doing with businesses at the moment, do you find that there is still resistance to using that technology, and then you're having to educate them and train them on how to implement that?
Yeah, and resistance. So resistance to technology and resistance to training. Again, because if you think of a typical seller, they'll be pretty busy. They have the pressure of targets. They have the pressure of volume of work coming in, and they'll go, I just haven't got time for that. I haven't got time to do X, Y, or Z. I know I need to learn the technology, but I'll put that off and go down the line. So again, it goes back to that growth mindset. We have two schools of thought. Others will go, right, here's an opportunity. How can I embrace that? Others will be, yeah, but it's fine the way it is. So, part of the skill of what we do is helping people to unlock that growth mindset and go, look, there is a different way. Give it a go. And then practice it and then be coached on it. Because otherwise you've got 20 years experience repeated 20 times and you're not different and you're standing still. And I think anybody in any role would always say, look, I'm quite happy and comfortable with the way things are. What AI is bringing in particular at the moment is such a rapid pace of change that it is genuinely uncomfortable for some people. So, as leaders, and certainly with what we do with our customers, we just got to help people see the value of it, see the benefits of it, see what's in it for them. And then the individual makes the choice.
Yeah, they do. They need to make the choice, but they do need to they need to embrace it, and they understand the benefits of how it can influence and make their jobs more efficient. And as you said, give them back the time to do the more proactive and valuable work. Definitely.
Yeah.
You've mentioned growth mindset quite a lot, and it's one of the things that I most value in a person. That and curiosity. If you're not learning something, why? We're not all experts at everything. Is that something that you value in the teams and the other management that you work with? And what are you reading right now, or what are you learning right now that's going to influence the way that you're leading in the business?
Oh, good question. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So I have read or listened to, I say read just for the ease of everybody watching, the Carol Dweck book on growth mindset. Great book. I recently read one called Turn the Ship Around, which is all about how leaders react. Great leader in I think it was the US Navy, took control of a submarine. So promoted and took control of the submarine, and talked about some of the challenges they had with a more directive leadership style, and how when you simple thing, it would encourage the crew to come to him and say, I intend to do this, that, or the other. I intend to. So rather than go and say, what should I do? I intend to turn the ship, whatever it may be. And
Yeah.
his response would be very well, or he'd ask a question if he wasn't sure that it was the right decision at that point. It's a really subtle bit of language change, but it puts the empowerment and the autonomy back into the individual. And by the way, it really encapsulates a growth mindset, because you're not saying you need to come to me, I've got all the answers. You're
Yeah.
saying you've got the answers, give me the solution, and then I'll just endorse it.
Yeah. I
So that
love
was good.
that.
I read a whole load of other things, like I've read stuff by David Goggins around Can't Hurt Me, which is all growth mindset stuff.
Mm.
I've got a book on my table about marketing at the moment because I'm trying to learn a bit more about that.
Mm.
Yeah, and various other things. But just generally, what I'll tend to do is listen to. I won't take it all on. I'll listen to a book, and then I'll go, actually, I really like that concept of that one. One of the other ones I just recently read was a book called Legacy, which was about the
Yes.
All Blacks.
Brilliant book. Yeah.
What a great book. And just from that, it was the mantra, you leave the shirt in a better state than you found it. I
Yeah.
think about that from a mentor perspective, and having taken it from Jim, Chris, and Neil, go, actually, how can we make this company, this organization, better than it was before? So when we pass it on in future, it's in an even better shape. They're simple principles, Jess, but I think with a growth mindset, you just listen, go, I really like that, I'm going to try it,
Yeah.
and then move on, and don't try and
Yeah.
digest it all, because it's just not
You
possible, I don't
can't.
think.
Yeah. You
No.
can't take it all in, especially, yeah, I listen to a lot of audiobooks as well. And it's, if you were going to implement everything in each of those books, like, it would just be impossible. So you revisit them, don't you, depending on what challenges you're going through. But it's
What was your favorite, by the way? You've asked me, what was your favorite book you've recently read?
Recently, it is To Be. What's it called? To Be. It's the Jim Collins second one. So,
After Get to Great.
on Entrepreneurship 2.0, yeah, is what it's called. I'll put the link in the comments for the podcast. But it was brilliant, because it's like you said, it's all really like basic foundational stuff that we kind of know, and we know that we should be doing, like the identifying the values, communicating the vision to the team, but all the way through to, change and transformation conversations. And it's a big chunky book, but it's one of those that you'll always go back to that particular chapter when there's something going on that you feel like you need a little bit of inspiration for. But yeah, it's brilliant, and it's really worth revisiting over and over again. I feel that one, especially if they've updated it from the previous one.
Yeah.
But Legacy is fantastic. Legacy is brilliant.
Yep.
And Legacy is a book that I did hand to a leader once when I left a business, because it was, I really need you to read the bit about sweeping the locker room floor, that bit about, being part of the team.
Get involved.
And mucking in, and understanding everyone's value and roles, definitely, 100%.
And nobody's bigger than any task, and that's really important. I share with you, by the way, and this, again, I'll caveat, this is not a shameless plug.
Shameless plug away. Go for it.
So I listened to a book called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And The Infinite Game says, often we think about things in moments, and that's life, and it's not life. Life is about everything we're talking about in here, these nudges that are leading you to an ongoing journey, an infinite game.
Yeah.
And I was walking my dog, who you just heard a moment ago, and I thought, well, he's describing sales really well, because actually in sales, we think of things in a moment of opportunities. We create an opportunity, we close an opportunity, we move on to the next one. But that's not right, because actually the best salespeople engage the customer, understand what they need. Yes, they'll sell them a solution, and then they'll make sure it works and that the customer gets value, and then they'll look for the next thing. So it's infinite.
Yeah.
So we wrote a book called Infinite Selling 2 years ago, myself and James Barton, who's the Chief Solutions Officer for Mentor Group. 2 years ago. And I'm saying that again deliberately, by the way, because when we wrote the book the first time round, AI was not as prevalent in selling as it is right now. So we're rewriting it now. In fact, it's been rewritten now to integrate AI into the concept of infinite selling, which will come out early next year. So it's not shameless, because you can't buy it at the moment, apart from the old version, which is not in date anymore. But it's really interesting because, again, going back to your point, it was the concept on that Saturday morning dog walk that I had with Dexter, who's my dog, that thought, that sounds like what we do. And then spawned the idea, shared it
Yeah.
with James. James wrote the vast majority of the manuscript, and I gave some inputs as well. And Infinite Selling was born. But if I hadn't have listened to that book, I'd never probably have come up with the idea. So you're
Yeah.
right. You don't need to absorb it all. What you just need to do is take those component parts and go,
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. That's useful. That's going to make me better than I was, and
Yeah.
then move forward.
1%. 1% gains can make
Marginal
a huge
gains.
difference.
Yep.
100%.
Yep.
Love that. Love that. And yeah, you're right. The best ideas come from those walks, don't they? And the being out of the business and not staring at screens. Yeah, it's definitely worth doing. If you look back across your journey then and all those little nudges, unexpected ones or opportunities that you did chase, what do you think, if you could predict, what do you think the next, or what would you like the next nudge to be? Like, where are you going to be in like 5 years' time?
Oh, there's a question. The company that I represent now, Mentor Group, with all the people that we're in, I love what we do. I really do. We work with, tens of thousands of sellers per year. And I like to think that even if, to your 1% rule, even if we can improve people's experience of being a seller, their performance by 1% at least, then we leave a really good legacy behind us. Of course, we want to grow. We want to meet more people and do more things. If my company or the company I'm part of can be known in the marketplace outside of our customer base, because our customer base already know that we do good stuff, by more people, and we're seen as being purposeful and delivering real change to people 5 years from now, whether I am still with Mentor or we move on and do something different, I'll be pretty happy with that.
Love that.
Because that makes a difference. The best part of my job is when I hear customer feedback around, it can either be a team or an individual, that they've tried something that we've talked about and they've moved the needle it's given them a better work-life balance. It doesn't matter what it is, but it's made a difference.
Made a difference.
The more of that we can do, the better it is. And again, that's not self-serving. It might sound it because we go, we want to deal with more people. Every company needs to grow to make sure we provide opportunities for our team to grow, and to bring more people in. That's what growth is all about. The way to do that is by giving a fantastic customer experience, more people hearing about it and wanting a part of it, which means we then affect more people whose lives we positively impact. That's really what it's all about, Jess.
It is, yeah. And no, it doesn't sound self-serving at all. It's full circle, isn't it? Back to that legacy conversation right at the beginning, like leaving behind something better than where you found it and helping more people do their best 100%. Work along the way. Yeah, brilliant. What advice would you give someone on the cusp of a bit of a career shift, or they're then being nudged somewhere? Like what advice would you give them in terms of going with their gut, or
I mean,
like that?
So listen to your gut for sure. There was a CEO during my Vodafone days. There was a CEO, and I remember it vividly. We was at the Newbury HQ, and he was talking about a change of role, and what he said was, and I'm not going to swear, but I'll use the word. He said, unless you have an OF moment when you're thinking of your next move, don't do it, because it's probably going to be a little bit too safe. Ooh. And I've always held on to that, and I've thought, wow, because if you've got that, I'm going to be doing this, then it's going to be stretching you, and it's going to be a little bit, it's going to bring you into a different place. So I've always held on to that and thought, in anything that I do, if I don't have an OF moment, it's probably just going to be a move for the move's sake. So that's the first thing. The thing that I often talk to people when I'm coaching is I say, look, there's two questions. Number one is, what do you want? And the second is, how will you know when you've got it? So they're good NLP-based questions. What do you want? And you think, well, that's an easy question. It really isn't. Because as soon as you get into what do I want? Well, what do I really want? Is it more money? Is it a better work-life balance? Is it more status? Because that's important for some people. What is it? And then once you know that, how will you know when you've got it? What's your measure of success? That will often help define where you go next.
That's
And
such
if you
good
couple all
advice.
that with an OF moment,
Yeah.
then you are doing something for good reason, for a purpose, rather
Mm.
than for the sake of it. And that's quite different. Sometimes we have to do some things for the sake of it if we find ourselves in various difficult situations. But if it's looking at the next move, I would always think about those three things: OF moment, what do you want? How will you know when you've got it? And that'll give you a good steer as to whether you're making the right decisions. And then listen to your gut.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's that if it doesn't scare you, is it worth doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Situation as well. Yeah.
Is it too
Otherwise,
safe?
yeah. Do you want to stay in a comfort zone, or do you actually want to do something? Yeah, that's going to stretch
Yeah, there was
you.
a quote, and I'm going to
Yeah.
misquote it, by the way, but it was, I think it's Oliver Wendell Holmes, and he said the mind once expanded to the realms of bigger dimensions never goes back to its original size. So you go, look, if you stretch your comfort zone, if you stretch your mindset around what you could do, it's never going to go back to where it was before. That's the old adage: do something every day that scares you.
Yeah.
Because once you've done that, it doesn't scare you tomorrow. It's the same. It's all the same psychology and
Yeah.
the same principle. But yeah, they're the sort of things I'd think about.
I love that. Great advice. Great advice. Amazing. I'm going to bring it back round to the alchemy theme to end. But if you had a personal alchemy ingredient or formula for success, what would that ingredient be, or what would that look like? What's the one thing you have to carry through that career that's helped
Treat
you?
people well. Treat people equally with respect. You look after people, they'll look after you. You don't look after people, they won't look after you. That's a non-negotiable, for sure. Hard work. There's no two ways about it. We're not gifted things in life. You have to go, and sometimes it's going to be deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So grit, determination, hard work, and then have a goal. Have something that you want to aspire to be, and keep going, keep persevering. Have a bit of stoicism, because it's not a linear path. So if you want to be over here, it's not right. I'm going to go like that. It's sort of all over here, and sometimes you go backwards. But if you're passionate about it and the goal is something you really want to aspire, keep going, keep the hard work. Make sure you involve those around you, the people that you love and the people that you work with. You might love them as well. Those are the three alchemy things I would say. And by the way, I haven't prepared that. So that's the things that have just come straight from my gut.
I love that. I love that. Perfect answer. Thank you so much for your time. I feel like I could talk to you for days.
No, I've loved it. It's great fun. Thank you for yours.
Brilliant. I really appreciate it.
And thanks for getting me thinking, because again, in the spirit of growth mindset, I'm now thinking, crikey, I wonder if what happened all those years ago really did lead me to this place or whatever it is. So it's nice to sort of talk it through and look at that path. So thank you for that.
No problem. I did an exercise once I think it was in a leadership program, where we kind of mapped out the milestones of individually. We did the milestones of our life, about all the things we think have nudged us to where we are now. And then we did an imaginary milestone mapping of what happens from this point in the future. And that kind of helped with the goal setting on that end. But it was really therapeutic to sort of see that life journey of where it's taken you, and actually all of the things that you've endured and pushed through and achieved. So yeah, super therapeutic. And I think that's a good exercise to do. Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks again.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Brand Scale. Look out for another episode dropping very, very soon.